IMB, Tarrus Richardson, and of course our moderator or the person leading our chat is Mr. Jeff Johnson.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
We're going to try again. Good morning.
Good morning.
You all doing good?
Yes.
Fantastic. If you are under the age of 20 years old, I need you to stand up. All right. So give yourselves a round of applause. And you all can have a seat. I am excited that you all are here. I really want this conversation to, in large part, be for you. And I hope that after you hear some of our conversation, there's some questions that you have. I want to say thank you to Terry and thank you to Mrs. Lewis for having us as a part of this conversation. I remember moving to Baltimore, working for the NAACP, and being introduced to the place Reginald F. Lewis came from. The first time I picked up Why Do White Guys Have All the Fun, I was just like, he was like a superhero. Because it was like, who has the gumption to write this kind of book and tell this kind of story in a time when a lot of us just didn't have Reginald F. Lewis's in our life. And so it is an honor to be here having this conversation with Tarrus, who in his own right has blazed trails in a space that often we don't see us. And so it's exciting to have this conversation with you, brother. I do want to get some of the introductory pieces out of the way. And so despite the fact that I am a member of the oldest fraternity, my brothers, I love my brothers. And there is another fraternity that both Reginald F. Lewis and yourself, as well as a number of the distinguished brothers around the room, are a part of. So I give a salute to all my KSI brothers, and want to give you the opportunity to acknowledge your KSI brothers.
Well, first of all, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. Mrs. Lewis, thank you for all you do, both within my life and my family for inspiration, within this community, within the broader community, to both be the leader and businesswoman that you are, but also to continue to shine the light on your husband and what he did and how it inspires so many of us. So thank you again, Mrs. Lewis. To Terry and Kim from the museum, what you're doing, that you're shining the light. So many of our African American museums shine light on culture, shine light on entertainment and sports. Not enough of us tell the story of business people and how they have a role in impacting our culture, our community, and quite frankly, funding our own investments in ourselves. And so thank you for all you're doing within Community for Impact. And then so I'm a new chapter brother out of Purdue University, Spring '88. To all the Kappas in here, just want to say it's good to see you brothers, and it's so important to see the Kappa League members. And so just one more time for the younger brothers here who are about Kappa League, thank you for being a part of it. Thank you for Kappa Alpha Psi.
So Tarrus, I mean, I like I said, I mean, I thought Reginald F. Lewis was a superhero. I had a father who was going through corporate America, and so I understood both the opportunity and the trauma that they navigated. But clearly, Reginald F. Lewis meant something to you. And can you talk just a little bit about, do you remember the first time you were introduced to him? And tell that story and what that meant to you.
Yeah, I appreciate the question. I'll say it a lot today, which is you can't be what you can't see. And so my parents, I'm from Chicago, they bought a bar when I was, call it 8 years old. And so it was unusual. We bought a $120,000 bar in a suburb of Chicago. We repositioned the bar to, basically a black bar. And today it's still around sort of serving our community and employing people and creating culture and entertainment in our community. We then bought a popcorn business when I was maybe 13, 14 years old. And it was a $300,000 acquisition. All our acquisitions came through raising money from friends and from, community members and doctors and dentists in increments of $50, $100, $500, $50, $100, $500, $1,000. So small dollars from local people helping us to buy a business. By the time I got to be 17, in May of 1987, on Jet Magazine is this article with the cover of Mr. Lewis. And it basically had a 90-to-1 return, and $63 million created a wealth for Mr. Lewis and his family. And I looked at my mama and I was like, now that looked like a good job. And so from that time, I basically, I quit college to try to start a popcorn business. I wanted to be a millionaire by 21. And I basically went back to Purdue and said, I want to figure out how to get this job. And so the inspiration to get a degree in accounting, I then moved to New York, worked in Solomon Brothers in a merger group for 2 years, because you got to get the apprenticeship. You got to learn from somebody before you go be your own businessman. I went to Ghana, West Africa. I started an investment bank when I was 23-year-old. We've now bought 65 companies there. It's one of the larger banks in Ghana. It helped us to learn how to do business with our own people. But I knew I had more to do, and so I went back to school. And again, Mr. Lewis's influence was he had gone to Harvard, he had got the training, he had worked at the professional law firm, Paul Weiss. And everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, but getting those building blocks of training is really helpful. And so after business school at Harvard, I went to go work one more time with a large private equity firm. It was called Joseph Littlejohn and Levy. All three of the people had made $100 million or better, self-made within 10, 15 years. And I thought that was a lot of money. And I also thought I could learn and train underneath them. So for 2 years, I worked at JLL. I then got an opportunity from Michael Porter at Harvard Business School to start a new fund called ICV. ICV stands for Inner City Ventures and for Minority and Women Investing. And we raised $130 million. I was 28, 29 years old. And by the time I got to 31, I had made $1 million of wealth. But more importantly, I had been trained for the game. Mm-hmm. And so since, call it 28, 29 to the day, as said, I've probably made 30 acquisitions. I left ICV in 2010 to form IMB, which stands for Investors in Minority Business. And the concept is twofold. I got fired from that job because I promoted MWB legislation. I promoted DEI. And I tripped somebody that got offended that I had the audacity to quote unquote push for legislation that they didn't like. And so in the journey to do some good, you will have to stand for your values sometimes. And when you do, you might get knocked off. And so I got knocked off the horse. I took my licks, so to speak. And then 4 years later, I came back to try a business. And one of the first investors I had is this young lady here, Mrs. Lewis. She and call it 14, 15 other people wrote checks of $50,000, $25,000, $100,000. And we basically bought a business in Pennsylvania. It's a $25 million IT servicing company selling to mostly the state of Pennsylvania. And after that, I have subsequently bought, call it 9 additional businesses. She has been an investor in, I think, all of them. I've been fortunate enough to give her, 3 and 5 and 10 times her money back on some of the things we've done together. And so I'm grateful for her investment and early investment, but I'm also grateful for so many people. I have maybe 150, 200 investors in total. Most of my investors, 65% of them are Black and or women, and writing checks of $100,000. And so everyone can write checks and help each other. And in the process, we can make money for each other, we can employ ourselves and build our communities.
Thank you. There are a couple of things you said I want to dive into. I think we hear the word values all the time. I don't think we always talk about values. And you talking about kind of the values that Reginald F. Lewis represented, and how that helped you build yours that you stood on, sometimes to your benefit and sometimes you questioned to your detriment. I'm curious about what are those values for you? Because I love, especially all the young men that I see, and as you all think about what you want to do, those values that you put in place are often way more important than the stuff that comes your way. Because those values help you determine what's the things I need to bring in, people I need to bring in, and what are the things I need to say no to. What were the initial values for you that set you on the pathway of how you worked and who you worked with and what you said yes and no to?
No, I love the question. Look, my firm's values are partnership and people first. Diversity and inclusion requires intentionality and having an entrepreneurial approach. I always want to be treated the way I want to treat people and vice versa. And if for some reason you ain't feeling me, then let's not do business and vice versa. So always try to affiliate with people who are feeling you. In any room you walk in, 30 people may like you, 40 people may like you, but you're always going to have a wake of people that don't. And your job is to find the people that do like you and vice versa and do business with them. So don't worry about the haters, avoid them and build your business and your community. As it relates to diversity in this moment in this time, like I'm unapologetically trying to help people that look like us. I know in this moment it's important for us to be excellent. And so what Mr. Lewis has done with the story that we tell as him being a Titan is he did a lot of things really well, early and often, and he told the story. And so all of us have an opportunity to show by doing. Whether you're sweeping streets, whether you're selling popcorn, whether you're in a bar or if you're buying businesses, just do your job well, associate with people that you are proud of, and good things happen. And so on the diversity and equity and inclusion side for me, we focus on women and minority businesses. We focus on developing networks and relationships where people know how to find each other in the ecosystem, whether it be for capital raising or for advice. And then finally, entrepreneurial approach. Like everybody in here should go get a job and get apprenticed by somebody in whatever it is you dream to be for 1, 2, 3 years. And then you should leave that job and go figure out how to be an owner of your own destiny. And so my firm belief is that there's tremendous wealth to be created if you have your own shop, if you buy and build businesses. Mr. Lewis and I've adopted the philosophy, like most people think about starting a business and 90% of startups fail. If you buy a business, 70, 80% of those succeed. And while you're young right now, for our under 21 folks, think of it like homes. By show of hands, how many people own a house? How many people that own a house built their house? How many people bought their house? Well, it's the same for business. Rather than trying to start a business and come up with this new idea, there are 6,000, 7,000 businesses every year for sale.
Yep.
And if you can buy a business from an owner that wants to retire, from an owner that needs capital for growth, well, it's an easier thing because they already have the plumbing, they already have the name, they already have the customers. And when you buy them, you then can just further improve them. It's a safer journey to entrepreneurship. So if I leave, and if only one thing happens today, which is one of y'all buy 1, 2, or 3 businesses that become $25 to $100 million in the course of 5 to 10 years, you all can make 5, 10, 50, $100 million of personal wealth, and that matters to us. We need to foster and encourage you guys to own by way of entrepreneurship, by way of acquisition.
So, unbelievable advice, and I think a couple things that you raised there that I want to talk about. When you first talked about your story and your parents, I was hit by the fact that you talked about we built this business with the community around us. And so even as you're talking to people in this room about going to buy businesses, and I'm hearing people even start doing calculations about how much they think they have or don't have. collective economics is a real thing, right? So what is advice that you give to those? Because we're probably at the place in our history where there's more generational companies that aren't going to be passed down within the family. And so small, medium, large companies are going to be available to sale for what you mentioned. And maybe we can't do that alone, but with 2, 3, 4, 5 other people, or if the frat decides to do it, or if a church decides to do it and come together. Can you give some advice on either models you've seen, examples that you've seen, or what you recommend to folks in this room about thinking how to feel like they don't have to do it by themselves, but collectively can make those things happen and work?
Yeah, a couple thoughts. Like when Mr. Lewis bought his businesses, he used other people's money, right? It wasn't him having the money in his bank to go buy a company. He had the faith and the confidence that he would be able to go out and raise the capital, right? And so step one is a mindset of believing that if you have done the training, you have a good idea, you have secured a business to buy, if you go talk to enough people, you will find the money. You gotta believe you can find it, and it's not gonna be easy. You may have to take 1,000 calls, 100 calls, but you will find the money. So mindset matters. Second is that for my first business that I bought, say in 2014, I had run out of money. I was in the middle of a lawsuit with the state of New York, which I won, and received an $18 million or $15 million payment for them discriminating and retaliating against me. But at the moment, I was out of cash, and so I got the right to buy the business, and then I went to my friends and my family. I went to Mrs. Lewis. I didn't want a lot of Mrs. Lewis money. Some people always want to try to get maximum amounts from a few people, and as much as I like Mrs. Lewis and I value all that she's done, I want to prove to her that we are going to be successful one step at a time. And so I asked her for an amount. She gave me her 100,000. I went to other friends. They gave me 15,000, 25, 50, 100. And I then went to the seller and said, look, man, I really, really want to buy your business, but I ran out of money. And he gave me a $1 million seller loan.
Wow.
And so effectively, my friends gave me $1.2 million. The seller gave me $1 million, and then I charged a deal fee of $300,000. So in pure Mr. Lewis fashion, I bought the first business with no personal money down. And why is that important to know? It's because if you fundamentally believe you can buy something, people will support you. Your community will find a way to help you.
Okay, so there are levels to this, though. And one of the things that you talked about Mr. Lewis was you in many cases, you had dropped out to run a business, but his trajectory from Virginia State to Harvard wasn't inspired you to go back to Purdue. There's a difference between hustle and science. And both are great. But sometimes culturally we elevate hustle and ignore science. And science being the science of business, the science of whatever industry that you're in, understanding how these things work, what the real math is. Because the deal you put together was not just your hustle. It was you understanding the game. And so when you think about the current marketplace that these young people are going into that is fundamentally different than the one that Mr. Lewis went into, that you and I went into, how do you talk about preparedness when there are various options, whether it's degrees or certification or apprenticeship? How do you talk to young people, or these young men in particular, about how should they be thinking about how they're prepared to match their hustle with the knowledge of the science?
I love it. I think the most helpful thing is to have examples of people, either indirect or direct, that you aspire to be like. And so the most amazing gift I got was to read an article about Mr. Lewis, who was doing something that was hard, that seemed very profitable, and also showed his family values and his philanthropy. So in '87, he wrote the $3 million check to Harvard Law School. He was supporting Jesse Jackson for a political campaign. His family was front and center. And so it's not just to be inspired by someone's wealth creation, it's to be inspired by how they walk their journey. And so my most important thing for people to do is to try to find 5 to 10 people that have accomplished something that you think is not average success, but exceptional success. Like my mom always told me to aim for the sun and you'll at least get the clouds, right? And so shoot for $100 million, $1 billion, right? And find people that either look like you or have the values you have, and clip articles or save files on them, etc. And then literally for me, when I clipped the article on Mr. Lewis, I literally walked around and said, how do you get this job? Because I was coming from a little bit the hood of Chicago, where nobody had a day job or a desk job or inside office job. And so finally someone I met, who's now my partner that I've known since I was 18, he's like, you got to go to New York and get an apprenticeship. So first get the inspiration by finding people that have done what you want to do. And then I reverse engineer. Well, he went to these schools. He went and worked on Wall Street. He worked as a lawyer doing SBIC transactions where he got the experience before doing it himself. And so many of the people, my sons are 24 and 21, they're urgent, man. They want to get out there and get in the game immediately. The caution, my mom said, please, baby, wait till you're 27 before you start your business. Again, I wanted to be a millionaire at 21. I started selling popcorn out of my locker. I got suspended from school for going to Wall Street. I was hungry to make money, right? You got to have a drive. But I also took the time to go to Wall Street to work at a merger place, to go to Ghana and start a business, and then to go back one more time to learn from some white gentlemen who had all made $100 million at JLL before I went on my own. So apprentice one or 2 years with people, and then find role models that you're inspired.
So real quick, how many young people in here want to be a millionaire or a billionaire? All right. How many of you personally know a millionaire or a billionaire? You personally know them. You got their number in your phone. Right. Not know of. I'm talking about know. There's a difference. All right. For those of you that didn't raise your hand, how many of you all know of a black billionaire that you want to emulate?
Yeah, black billionaire.
All right. Not many of you raise your hands. The challenge with that is because there are not that many black billionaires in comparison to, and most of the black billionaires that actually have real money don't play ball, don't entertain anybody.
Right.
They do business.
Right.
And so many people in this room didn't know who Robert Smith was until he wrote a check at Morehouse and became in the national news. Many people don't know who Richard Lou Dennis is. Even they have Shea Moisture on their shelves, but don't know who the Dennis family is. There are a number of black billionaires that are both African American and diasporic, but they do business. And so what I hope that you all do, because Tarrus says something funny, he said do clippings, and y'all don't clip nothing. So it's you save a clip from TikTok or IG, but start following people who are billionaires. Watch their moves, watch what they, one of the greatest stories for me, I'm from Cleveland. I literally just flew in this morning. And I remember when LeBron was playing ball in high school. And LeBron got a $100 million Nike contract before he ever got drafted. The first person LeBron called after he got that $100 million contract was Warren Buffett. And I'm like, how did this kid know? Like, he don't have a father, he half raising his mama. How did he know to call Warren Buffett first? And somewhere, something in him said, I know the people that have the stuff that I want. And so when you think about what LeBron has been able to amass by way of wealth and businesses, it makes sense that Warren Buffett was who he wanted to emulate himself after. He's not flashy. He don't spend a whole lot of money on nonsense. He builds and buys businesses. He's dealing with acquisitions and mergers. He's operating as an owner and not just as a player. His agent, who is his partner, is the biggest agent in the NBA and in sports. So it really is who you emulate. So I really want you all, whether it's on TikTok or IG or whatever else happens after TikTok, follow people that have the things that you want. Watch what their moves are, and watch how they live their lives, and identify those things that you want and those things that you don't want. And then identify the five people you spend the most time with are greatest reflection of where you're going. And so if you got 5 friends around you and you looking at them like, y'all crazy, you crazy too. Because again, and I don't want to overly use LeBron, I literally just saw a clip today. The first time LeBron was on Rap City on BET, he was on there with 4 of his guys that at that point in time were just his friends. And those guys were Maverick Carter, who is now one of the biggest marketers in America, Rich Paul, who is the largest agent in sports. He rode with the guys that were with him instead of trying to reach for people that didn't really want to be with him. And so your boys, your friends, your circle is so incredibly important. So I just want to make sure and just reiterate what I hear Tor saying about how you do this. And I think one of the things I'd like you to also talk about when we think about money and business, there are a lot of people chasing venture capital dreams. I think that there is almost this myth of becoming a billionaire that people have been sold. And the vast majority of businesses that thrive are not venture businesses. They're bankable businesses. Can you talk about the difference? And for our communities in particular, where are the areas that you see opportunities for us, either as individual investors or as people that want to come together to create communal wealth? Where are the spaces you're seeing the greatest opportunity as we're moving into the next 5 years?
Appreciate the question. Let me circle back for 1 second.
Please.
How many people know the book, Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun? By show of it. How many, so like for the people who read it, it came out in '94. My first meeting with Mrs. Lewis was at a book signing at Harvard Law School in '94 of the book. I never met her husband. He had passed away. I never got to meet him. I read about him. I have read that book probably 30 times. I used to read it 2 or 3 times a year. I can cite every chapter, every story. Because the more you can, it's like film if you play sports. You go and watch the other team, you go and watch the best players, and you model their moves. Whether it's a singer learning how to sing the songs of the people that they love who are singers, the sports people, it's true in business too. You can learn by reading other people's information. And if you can know that, like when I lose a deal because someone walks from the table, I don't take it personal, because it's happened to Mr. Lewis and it's gonna happen to y'all. It just ain't meant to be. You take your lick and you move on. But by having the examples and knowing that you're not being targeted, you're not isolated, if their values don't match up and they decide not to do business with you, it's their loss. You learn from it, you pick up. So all I ask is that in addition to knowing who they are, go deep on 1 or 2 or 3 people, whether it's Warren Buffett, whether it's Henry Kravis. There was a whole gang of people that weren't black that I learned about because Mr. Lewis associated with them. I learned about Drexel and Michael Milken. I learned about Henry Kravis because he was in the story of Reginald Lewis, and it made me try to follow and understand them too. So follow it, dive deep, learn the story. It'll make your journey a little bit easier. In terms of where to go today, first you gotta figure out who you wanna be. There's no right or wrong way. If you want to do tech, if you want to do real estate, if you want to do buying businesses, it doesn't matter, but just pick one thing and then find people that have been successful in that and figure out how they got there and then replicate. On the tech venture capital space, if you have a fundamental knowledge of AI or interest in AI, interest in tech, please do it. I don't want to dissuade anybody from doing their dream. Everybody can make true wealth if they love something and then model people that do it well and figure it out. The fast money dream, like, oh my goodness, I started this business and now I made $100 million, $500 million, $1 billion. That's what you see. And know that like those stories are real. But at the end of the day, the number of people that fail is 90%. And so your shot is a much more riskier shot because so many people are trying. It takes 13 years usually for these businesses to succeed, maybe 15, and the ones you read about are the few that succeed in 3 years, 5 years. And so you can do it, but the question is, how do you do something safer along the way? And is that you? In the safer idea, in our opinion, again, you can buy businesses that are profitable in a way that's safer to make money. But I don't want to tell you it's the only way. It's just, if you're going to do tech, find role models, model what they do, train for 2 to 4 years before doing it, and then go figure out how to be great at it.
So I want to open the floor for questions. We've got a diverse audience and would love to hear from any of you. I'm not sure how we want to navigate the mic, but what I will do is if you want to stand up, we'll get to you with the microphone and just let us know what your name is and what your question is.
Check, check, check. Okay, here it comes. Hello, my name is Mary Agostino Mitchell, and my question is this. How do young people get to know what they want? I mean, give me sort of an age thing that you know, or do you just know anytime? Are you born knowing it? Or give me your answer on that, your take on that.
Thank you so much for the question. So, listen, I think that we're, as human beings, if we're honest with ourselves, we're constantly figuring out what we want. I think one of the things that I heard Tarrus say is commit to something. Because as young people, we want what is commensurate with our knowledge. And normally as we grow, what we want will evolve. So what I love in seeing with young people is young people that have been willing to commit to something. And whether that's committing to sports, or whether that's committing to grades, or whether that's committing to art, or whether that's committing to a business, the commitment that you put into something. When you say, this, I want to be excellent at this. I want to give myself to this. When other people are sleeping, I want to be better at this. So whether you're studying, no matter what it is, my sons used to say to me, Dad, I don't think you believe in us because you don't seem excited. And I used to say, I believe in you. I've got receipts. I just don't believe you. Because I know what it looks like when somebody really wants something. So I think it's dangerous to put on an age on where somebody is when they know what they want. I think we see it in our babies. And the job for us is to encourage it in them when we see it. Especially when it's not the thing we want them to be passionate about. Because it just doesn't work that way.
Can I tag on something to that?
Of course you can.
Listen, so shall we, as young people, try to be around like-minded young people?
And so what I'm going to do is this, ma'am, because you are my elder and I love you.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to let you just hoard the mic. I know, I got you. And anybody else that has a question, please come up. But I do want to address her question, Tori. I would love to hear how you navigated your circles. Like you've talked a little bit about the need to have a diversity of circles, and one of the things I wanted to ask you, because I think growing up black, we have trust issues. And there are a lot of us, especially if we've been in all black environments, gone to HBCUs, have such a level of distrust for white folks that it impacts us sometimes when we get into business space. I don't know if that's a place you want to go or not, but I'm just curious to answer her question. How do you think about, how did you navigate who was part of my circle? And I heard you say how much all of your businesses have really been about serving our community, but your relationships were still broader than our community. So how have you navigated your circle?
There's no perfect answer, right? I grew up, in a town that was a sundown town. There was a ton of racism. I was, 78, bused to another community to make it available for gentrification, or not gentrification. It was like I went to all white school and we were a bus of black kids going there to try to diversify at school, right? Throwing eggs at us, calling us black and nigger and all that stuff, right? I have grown up seeing racism. I've grown up seeing black people, harm white people because they were in the wrong street. I've gone to Africa and it cured me, because when I went to Africa, I realized that there's racism even amongst your own color. Like you're gonna be too tall, too short, you're gonna be this, dialect versus that dialect. Racism is bigger than white and black in America. It's just a part, it's an illness that makes people want to hate what they are not, or to want to love what they are to the point where they don't value other people. And so my view is, I don't worry if someone is racist. I don't worry if someone hates me before I open my mouth. I go back to, I try to find the people that I can relate to. We have to find our people and build from within our own base. That's all we can control. And as it relates to like the circles, I grew up with self-help books, starting at 10. If you don't have a book, some people have the Bible, right? It has tremendous stories and tremendous reasons for faith and belief. If you want a self-help book, anyone, pick one. Yeah. But it's going to tell you definite a purpose, find role models, figure out how to learn and apprentice and practice. And at the end of the day, you just got to go out and believe. You got to go out on faith that you will be successful. And when you're running with your crew, I grew up with a crew, 6 of us, 5 of us dead. By the time I'm 13, by the time I'm 20, by the time I'm 30, it's a story of a lot of us. The hardship story is what it is. Your job is to keep trying to find people that are positive, that nourish you versus discourage you.
Awesome, thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is David Small, and I had a question for Mr. Tarrus about, specifically from my position as a junior in high school about to start applying for colleges, to get the knowledge of what you do before I actually start to try and sell business, buy and improve and sell businesses. What would I actually go and do in college or before college started to actually acquire the knowledge to do so?
Thank you, David. I met David 30 minutes ago. He said he wanted to do real estate. It's an impressive transition, man. I like it. And so for me, there's a ton of stuff on the web, right? So if you go to my website, go to my LinkedIn, there may be, 50 posts and 5-minute, 10-minute, 30-minute, 60-minute podcasts of me telling my story. It's the equivalent of the book, Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun? They're podcasts. And if you just find, let's start with David Grain from Grain Management. You go to Grain Management's website and learn about David Grain, learn about IMB, learn about Robert Smith. Robert Smith is a $6 billionaire all through acquisitions in the last 25 years. Just pick 3 And then from there, if that's interesting to you, you'll see our LinkedIn will show. Are you on LinkedIn? Like every young person should get on LinkedIn, mostly because when you type my name in LinkedIn, not only do you learn about me and find out more about my firm, but you also find out who I'm connected to. And then you can go down and say, well, wow, look at all these other people. And you can click on other people. And it's probably going to be, if I have 8,000 names on my link, there's at least 4,000 of them that are Black people doing different cool things. And so you're just trying to find as many stories as you can of how people did it as you start your journey.
Thank you for the question, man. Yes, sir.
Two-part question, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned earlier in your comments that you went to West Africa to kind of learn how to do business with our people. I'm interested to know what lessons you've learned as a part of that that are applicable to today, and what are the differences you recognize. And the second question is, actually, if you can answer that one first.
Can you state your name and what you do?
Van July, I'm actually a corporate partner doing M&A work. I actually met Tarrus because we represented a client that Tarrus's company was buying, and I've been enthralled with him ever since. So,
Thank you, Ron.
So first, doing business with each other, doing business where people on both sides of the transaction are of color is a beautiful thing. So the minority business we bought, it was legal representation by Venroy on their side. They had a African-American, husband and wife team that was selling the company. We had a Black lawyer, I think Seth was on that trade. And so it's just beautiful when all sides can be of color. And I'm just grateful for being able to complete that transaction. As it relates to Africa, there's a ton of money to be made in Africa. There's a ton of money to be made in the emerging markets. So I go there. I'm in this 2-year analyst program in Solomon. All the white kids seem to be going to Tokyo and London and Japan, Australia, etc. And nobody was talking about Africa in '93. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, I want to figure out what's there. And so I cold call 100 people, and you'll hear me say I talk or I cold call people a lot. Like, how are you gonna learn if you don't start talking to people? So I asked like 100 people that had worked in Africa. If you were me at 23 trying to go to Africa, what would you do? And so they sent me to a couple entrepreneurs that were in Ghana and in Nigeria. And I took a job with a guy named Dr. Kwesi Ndum, who ran a consulting business for Deloitte, and Deloitte and Touche at the time. I got that job. It paid only $600. But the difference was they paid my housing, they gave me a car, we had a chef, we had sort of a maid. And like on $600, I saved $400 a month because it was cheaper and it was a much higher quality of living in New York. And so first it's like, don't be afraid of the mystery. You got to go and get there. When I got there, it was just entrepreneurial. Like there's everything that is in other countries, and Ghana's way more developed now, but there's still ways to do what you learn here, there, and make good money. I learned that, no matter what country you're in, there's a circle. And you got to know, again, where your 5 people at and where the other people at, and they not going to be trying to help you, and your circle ain't going to be trying to help them. That's just human nature, right? The only thing else I learned was that there's so much need there that no matter how much I want to give and I want to help, we ain't going to fix the problem. Our job is, as good Boy Scouts, good Girl Scouts, good stewards, is to make the campsite better than when you got there. And so, we went from an idea to, call it 30 people in 12 months. We generated $4 million of revenue. We built some roads. We built some different hotel properties. And then we left it to other people to carry on. And then they kept growing the business to where it now has bought 65 companies. Your job is to take it from one place to the next and pass it to people so that it can then continue.
Yeah. And if you don't mind really quickly, I just think it's important too, because some of us are going to have the opportunity to engage with people and culture before we do business or on the pathway to doing business. And so even before you know I want to be in Accra or Kumasi in Ghana, or I want to be in Addis in Ethiopia, or I want to be in Abuja in Nigeria to do business, travel. One of the most empowering things you will ever do is get a passport, because it literally will open a world of education to you without having to have a whole lot of money to do it. And so you talked about the mystery of Africa, and I've been to 17 sub-Saharan African countries, and every single time I'm there, I learn something different about myself. And so I think that Americans often are intentionally and unintentionally arrogant when we travel the world. And one of the things that I just implore you all to do is be excited about your ignorance, because it allows you to be curious in a way. How many black men in particular, how many times have you been in a place where you pretended like you knew something because you were afraid of not knowing? Some of y'all lying. Because we haven't always been given permission not to know. And so I just encourage these babies, get excited about what you don't know, so that you are incredibly curious. And Africa is an unbelievable place, especially right now. I'm so excited about what's happening in Rwanda from a social standpoint and a business and a political standpoint, that I just think there's a lot of lessons for us, some of which are not connected to business, but so many are. So I just wanted to say that, brother, because there's such a cultural, educational opportunity for us on the continent that's not romanticized, because it's not perfect, but it will expand, and it is the future of so much business. So understanding it now will set you up for unbelievable amounts of business, regardless of what sector you're in later on.
Absolutely true. The other point, I will say about the deal that I did with Tarrus. I've been practicing law for 13 years at that point. And that was the first deal I'd ever worked on where there was a black person on the other side, there was a black investment banker, there was a black attorney on the other side. And that has stuck out in my mind, because that's the only deal that's ever looked like that ever since. So I've done in the 17 years that I've been practicing law, I've worked on one deal like that, and it was Tarrus's deal. The second question related is, particularly you mentioned IMBs, you're investing in minority businesses. How are you guys thinking about the marketplace now, particularly with the attacks on DEI, and a lot of government contractors are very concerned about the elimination of 8A programs and other things that give set-asides for other black-owned businesses and the rules that are changing the SBA. How are you guys thinking about that going forward?
Cool. Good question, Roy. On Africa, let me just make sure I clean up one thing. There's so many wealthy people, so many educated people that look like us in the room, that we don't tell the story of that sort of amazing experience to go to a country and to find people running the government, running the schools, running the businesses, running the utilities. It is empowering to know that we can do it unapologetically. You should go and just check it out. As it relates to DEI and MBE and supplier diversity, it is something I've worked in for 25 years. And the most important thing to know is that you won't make money off race. You make money off of know-how. And know-how comes in the process of buying and building businesses, raising capital. Know-how comes by picking an industry. I do utilities and government contracting. I got 100 large utility customers, 3,000 utility customers. I know how they need to contract and do business. I have a $350 million food business that is global with the U.S. military, number 2 supplier to military food. I have been working in that space for over 25 years. And so the way that you get past diversity and get past MBE and supplier diversity is try to learn a skill and try to be specific about an industry you like. And that will lead you to always finding opportunity to do business with people that want to basically grow with you and help you build your business. I do think it's a very challenging time, But for black people and for diverse people, we've never had a good time, if that makes any sense. And so just keep grinding and figure it out.
So really quickly, I got two more questions. I want to get you all to ask them back to back. Tarrus will answer and then we'll close out.
Good morning still, I hope. My name is Janelle Carrington Smith. I just wanted to piggyback on one of the statements that you made. I came up in a time that when I knew early on what I wanted to do, I understood the tenacity and the effort that it took for me to actually get those things or the results that I wanted. So now that I'm raising a son, and I understand the difference between the dynamics of a mother and a son, I can share all those things with him. What I have done is utilize the relationships to put him in the room, to get him to have those conversations. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only mother in here raising a son, so my question is, with us now having more social media access, and that's really what our children live by, with you gentlemen both having the platform that you do, how would you suggest or how would you approach a young man or a young woman looking for mentorship? How would they go about using social media to access the opportunities to get to know you or open that door if they aren't given the key to actually get through those doors?
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Ojo, BAC, Spring 24 Z Club. I have 3 parts of my question.
I need one.
One question? Okay. All right. Most important question. Okay, so I have a business I started last year. It's a fitness business, and it's been going well, but I know that with more of me, I could be able to scale it, right? So I'm trying to figure out what are some roadmaps so I can understand how to be able to scale my business. The second part is what?
Come on, brother. Come on, man. Come on. I love you.
You take the daughter's hug, Dominic.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that social media is dangerous and beautiful, and it is challenging to be able to navigate it. I think it is an amazing place to understand who people are and what they do. I don't think that it is an amazing place to develop relationships with people you don't know, and so it's challenging. I just believe that we ignore so many mentors that are directly within arm's reach of where we are. There are so many elders that got so much game, and we walk by them every day in the name of trying to get with somebody that's got a title or a brand. And I'm talking about business people. I'm not just talking about celebrities. There are black men and black women in Baltimore that have done business and successful business and have scaled businesses and have exited businesses. But we often don't know who they are. And so I think it is important for some of our organizations to do a better job of highlighting who those people are, of creating opportunities for those rooms to exist that young people can come into that are safe and that are monitored. And so telling the stories of black business owners in a way that we have not, elevating opportunities to connect those black business owners to our babies in ways that there are safe ways to create relationships and mentorship relationships. And also create spaces for young men and women who think they're crazy because they go to a school and they're surrounded by people that don't want the same things they want. Or they haven't met somebody that has the same dream that they have. How are we helping curate spaces to connect our babies with like-minded other young men and women, and potentially even seed and cultivate their young businesses? It was one of the things that Ms. Lewis was doing with their entrepreneurship program when I first met her when I was in the NAACP in 1999. So the more that we are supporting and seeding not only entrepreneurial knowledge, but pooling resources to provide, you have white kids or wealthy kids where they do friends and family rounds because they can go to friends and families and ask for $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, $100,000. Most kids in our community don't have a friends and family where they can get $100,000, $200,000. but they got churches that do, and fraternities and sororities that do. And if we were a little bit more intentional about how we thought about supporting and seeding young entrepreneurs, and I know some of you are doing, we do it at a higher level, I think we would get to your question, because it's about how are we building the rooms, how are we curating the rooms, and how do we have just unbelievable gangster intention about what's in those rooms, not just by way of knowledge, but by way of safety.
Yeah. I think that's a great point. I am burdened by the fact that I called Mrs. Lewis and I stalked her at a book signing and followed up with her. There's used to be a Black Enterprise 100 top Black businesses. I called everybody on the list, and I wrote everybody on the list, and I did it like 5 and 10 times, starting at 17 years old, 18 years old, and I probably met 60 people on the list. If you call me one time, it probably won't happen. If you email me and LinkedIn me 2-3 times, it won't happen. But if you start saying, look, I read these 3 podcasts, I listened to this podcast, I'm inspired by this, I'm on my journey, if you have 5 minutes, can you either email, text, or write? And you just keep hitting people. And it's the burning desire. It's like, I knew people had knowledge I needed, and I wanted to get up to speed on what they did, and I wanted to just touch them. I would go to conferences and ask the conference to let me in for free, because, hey, I'm 18, I ain't got no money. They let me into the conference, I rushed to the panel, I came and talked to them afterwards. It's your urgency. If your urgency is there, everyone will pick up the call. Yes. But if you slow down because after 1 call, 2 calls, 3 emails, you ain't hear back, then you can get lost. Because for me, I probably have, I don't know, 1,000 emails a day. And so like, I'm gonna lose the traffic. But if you really wanna get through, by the time you get to 7 to 10 times, in my day job, I call a founder 7 to 10 times before they likely pick up the phone. That's what we're doing today. And so if you grind it out, you'll talk to people because they will see your hunger and they'll wanna help you. For the brother that's got a business to scale, at the end of the day, do you have 5 examples of other businesses that are doing whatever you're doing in professional, in sort of fitness, that are, if you're at $500,000, $1 million of revenue, the question is, who are the 3 to 5 businesses in your area or not that got $3 to $5 million or $10 million of revenue? Find the model. Again, back to the conversation of film. Your easiest way to grow a business is to have 3 examples of somebody that's a little bit further ahead. What did they do? Did they hire more trainers to work with them? Did they open a second office or a second facility? Did they, seek a partner? Once you know the model, then you can just sort of plug and play your game into it. My biggest advice is, early in business, you basically benefit by replicating what is successful in other people.
So at this point, I want my brother Robert Parker to come back up. He's going to make some announcements.
All right, thank you. A round of applause, please, for our conversation. Mr. Jeff Johnson.